recent running of the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy saw a field of over 150 drivers head to the east part of Belgium. Located amidst the lush and beautiful Limburg countryside is the home of champions, Karting Genk. Established back by the Lemmens family in the 1980s, it now has evolved to the circuit you see here. Located around a 15 to 20 minute drive from the Dutch border, this circuit is part of a great cultural atmosphere here in this particular nation. The circuit itself, just off of the main Europaplan, runs clockwise, measures 1,360 metres, and over the three sectors that this circuit has, the drivers will have to negotiate a variety of 11 total different corners around every single lap. In our final report of the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy, a total of 19 DD2 and DD2 Masters drivers would be in action at this fantastic facility at the home of champions over the course of the weekend. With the gearbox-driven karts run by a 2-speed up and down paddle shift, everyone would once again be putting their best foot forward. But Wout Kerstens for the Netherlands and for Combi Kart Racing Team would take overall pole position for the two classes. Pole sitter Wout Kerstens would lead the field, accompanied by FM Racing's Jan Eckstein from Germany in the 407, to the lights going out for qualifying heat number 1. Along with them would be the 422 of Hugo Dupont from France and the 428 from Denmark of RS Competition's William Norbeek. The action was fast and plentiful, including some great opportunistic overtakes by Jordi Kleebol from Belgium. Noah Hipp, a member of Team France in recent years in the Rotax Grand Finals, was looking on form on his 415 Birelot. Wout Kerstens, however, would win by just under 0.3 of a second ahead of William Norbeek, with Hugo Dupont rounding up the top 3 in the first heat. Qualifying deciding the grids for all 3 qualifying heats. Once again, Wout Kerstens would start qualifying heat number 2 from pole position, and as the lights went out, a flurry of activity occurred, but at this particular moment Jan Eckstein went straight off at turn 1 as the German ended up bringing up steam from his Rotax Max Evo engine after the muddy grass intervention. Quite a few drivers were getting in on the action, including the 433 of a new recruit to the DD2 ranks, Jort van Wijk from the Netherlands. The 402 of Bennett Demler would also get his elbows out. Meantime, we had some great battles with the likes of Christophe Capitan, the 523 for RM Concept, the team run by previous Grand Finals winner Morgan Riesch, but William Norbeek would take the win in heat number 2. Heat number 3 got underway on late Saturday afternoon, and everyone was still jockeying for positions, but a multi-kart incident, including the likes of the 496, the 584 and a few others, meant that some drivers were on the back foot in the early goings. One DD2 Masters driver punching above his weight was the man from the Netherlands, Jim Ringelberg, running in the 547 Ringelberg Racing entry. He was definitely showing that with the likes of Hugo Dupont, Jan Eckstein, William Norbeek and Noah Hipp he was definitely able to get his elbows out. But then this move here showcased that he was more than willing to let the faster, younger drivers go through, as he was clearly leading the Masters division. Wout Kerstens and Hugo Dupont would be embroiled in a battle for the race lead towards the end of the race, but the Frenchman would take the win in the final qualifying heat on Saturday afternoon. Meantime, Ringelberg picked up the win in Masters. For the superheat, the sun shone here in Limburg as everything got underway with Wout Kerstens leading from pole position. It would become a three-way battle with William Norbeek and Noah Hipp deciding to put his elbows out with the Stanley knives alongside and clearly sharpened, as the Frenchman would take the lead. Hugo Dupont was also there along with William Norbeek, meaning that Wout Kerstens would end up being demoted down into 4th position. Dupont would then take the lead, and a little bit of touching between Norbeek and Noah Hipp meant that Hugo Dupont was able to stay behind his French colleague. Norbeek and Kerstens continued to battle as the two Frenchmen at the front end would come across the line. However, Hugo Dupont would inherit the victory as Noah Hipp was given a 5-second front bumper penalty. With Hugo Dupont on pole position for the final itself, it was revs up, lights out for the final time here at the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy. Drivers jockeying for position, Jort van Wijk making his way up into P2 on the early exchanges through turn 1. Kerstens, Norbeek and Ralph van der Pavert would be in the mix as Jordi Clerbault would find himself spinning out of turn 3 and backwards into the barriers. Jort van Wijk would then make his way through on Hugo Dupont, as Noah Hipp would try and chase the few in front. Van der Pavert found himself off track and had a little bit of contact with Dupont coming out of the final corner. Noah Hipp was definitely revved up and ready to race and go for the W, but he still had a couple of obstacles to get away from. The sideways mode for Kerstens allowed Norbeek to get through, with Dupont and Van der Pavert trying to get through. A little bit of a discussion down the Unipylon between Noah Hipp and Jort van Wijk showed that the Frenchman was the quicker of the two individuals. Van Wijk would then respond with a dive up the inside of turn number 1, with Noah Hipp quickly putting the pressure back on the shoulders of the man from the Netherlands. However, Hugo Dupont would cross the line across the way, but the win would go to Noah Hipp in DD2, and Jim Ringelberg would take the victory in the Masters division. Jim Ringelberg, Roman Jager and Wilfred Marafina took the top 3 in DD2 Masters. In the DD2 classification, Noah Hipp would be declared the victor ahead of William Norbeek and Ralph van der Pavert from the Netherlands completing the top 3. Well, that wraps up our coverage of the 2026 Champions Winter Trophy here on OnBoard by WFR TV. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.